Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be doing a review for a movie that is called Indecent Seduction, but it also goes by For My Daughter's Honor. And I was thinking instead of showing my face, I would just, talk and you guys can see the two movie covers. So, let's get started. A young girl named Amy is getting ready for her first day of high school. She's a 14-year-old girl. Her mom drops her off and she meets up with her two best friends, Kimberly and Kelly. I find it weird on the first day of school, they have a pep rally where after the cheerleaders perform, for some reason the principal runs out and gives them a hug, and it's just like the way he's touching them, it's like, why are you hugging them this way? And then he introduces their football team and the coach, Peter Nash, who is also the biology teacher and who, like all the girls, swear is the finest thing since sliced bread. And in the movie, he's a nice looking guy, but it's just like nothing to write home about. So her friend Kimberly tells her that it's a known thing for him to have like a special little girlfriend in his class, for that year. And Kim and Amy have his class together this year. So the next time they have class, because they had it once and, get to know everybody. But the next time they have his class, he's passing back graded assignments in a folder, and he put a note in Amy's folder that says, "Hi, you sure look pretty today," with a smiley face. And Kim sees the note and gives like each one of them a look, like, she has her eye on them. More so him, since it's a known thing that this is what he does. And so he calls Amy back after the class is over and tells her to come to his class during fourth period to help him grade papers for extra credit. And so while it's just the two of them in there, he tells her it looks like something's wrong. So he's asking her what's the matter. So she tells him about the problems that she's having at home with her parents fighting all the time. And at this time, he just appears to be a listening ear. So Amy gets her friends, Kimberly and Kelly, to come with her to football practice so she can, watch him. But it's under the guise of, watching the football players. And Kelly has a crush on one of the guys anyway, so it's just like it works out perfectly. But the whole time they're there, she's just smiling and staring at him. It's just like you're not even trying to pretend that you're not looking at this man. Oh, excuse me. And Kim catches on to that. She's like, "Girl, why do we have to sit here with you to watch your boyfriend?" And they start passing notes back and forth with each other. And this is Coach Nash and Amy, because in his class again, he writes her another note telling her how pretty she looks. And of course, she blushes and she finds this exciting. So she writes him a note back telling him that he's cute and how she likes his shirt. And it's just like gross. Because not only is Coach Nash an adult and a teacher, he's married with three children, and this is a 14-year-old little girl. So after one of the practices, he pulls her into the locker room saying, he has something for her. And that something for her just happens to be like a kiss on the cheek, also like the corner of her mouth. So one day they're out having lunch and he shows up drinking a beer. So, they're 14 teenagers. They think this is cool. And Kim tells Coach Nash to buy them one. And he was like, "Do you guys really think I'm going to buy you girls a beer?" And Kelly says, "No, wine coolers." And he actually does it. A 4-pack of fuzzy navels. Now that's a throwback for you. Even though I'm 28, I remember fuzzy navels. So they're hanging out in his truck. He has a pickup truck. Oh, I probably should have mentioned this in the beginning. The setting in the movie is in Ohio. So, very, do I want to say country? Country living. And so they're hanging out in his truck, drinking also in the back of the truck. And he lets Kim drive his truck. And Amy starts to hop in the car, to go with him, but he pulls her back. And Kim whips that bad boy out of there and just taking it for a spin. And he gives Amy a gift, which is a tape of a band that she loves. And this time, he kisses her on the lips. And another student sees them, but she just backs away and doesn't say anything. So he takes them or leads them back to school, and they're like walking around like they're just so tipsy. But it's like wine coolers, there's not that much alcohol in there, but I guess for a teenager, whatever. And they're in the library of all places because they're like so loud, just tipsy, woo, I can barely stand up. And he takes them to the library and tries to convince them to be quiet, which of course they can't. And they get on the copy machine making copies of their hands, and then Kim sits on the copy machine and takes copies of her butt. And I also forgot to mention that Kim is on the plus side. She's not too big, but she's just like bigger than the rest of the girls. So he picks her up and puts her down, and she's just like, woo, and she's just being real flirty. But then when he picks up Kelly, like she's lighter. And I only mention that because we get a shot of Kim's face when he does it, and it's just like her feelings are kind of hurt because he kind of act like he strained his back a little bit, picking her up. And then when he goes to pick up Amy, he holds her for longer, and it's just like, okay. And then the librarian, sorry, comes in, and at that moment, and she's just like, what are you doing? And he claims to be writing a pass for the girls to be excused from being tardy for their classes. And she tells him, like, do you think that's appropriate? And he says, I wasn't doing anything wrong, so can I go now? And she's like, yeah, sure, you can go. And she goes to the principal, who says that, the things that you hear, they're just rumors. There's no truth to it. And she took, like, I saw this with my own eyes. The way he was touching on these girls is inappropriate. And he just says, those are just rumors. It has to be taken with a grain of salt. So he basically just brushes it all off. So Amy and Coach Nash are together, and she asks him about the other girls that she's heard of him being with. He denies it and tells her that she's the first girl that he's ever did anything like this with. And that those are just rumors, don't pay it any attention. He's given her a Valentine's Day card. He calls her on the phone, and it seems that she has her own phone line, because when the phone rings, like, you don't see it ringing in the rest of the house, or if any of her parents pick up the phone. So she has her own phone line, and they meet up late at night in his truck, and they're kissing and making out, and he tries to take off her bra, but she stops him, and he's like, oh, come on, don't do this to me. And it's just like, you are so gross. How are you pressuring this little girl? And of course, as a teenager, you feel bad because you feel like you're disappointing them or not doing the right thing, or you're still acting like a little kid, in which you are. But as a teenager, you want to appear to be older or think that you're older. And he tells her that he wants to be with her. He won't tell her wife, it'll just be their secret. And at first, when they agreed to meet up, she said that she wouldn't do it because she had some English work to do, and he agreed to talk to her teacher. So he goes to this teacher and gets her to bump up her grade. Because he was like, she talked to me about it and she was just really upset. And she just agrees to do it. And it's just like, wow. Um, what was I saying? So he agrees to, he picks her up for what looks like he says that he's taking Amy out to a concert, which at first I thought was BS because I was like, he is so bold to show up to her parents' house just to pick her up. But it's like he's a teacher and the coach, so he can say that he's just picking her up to take her out with his daughter because he also has a 14-year-old daughter. So he's taking Amy, Kimberly, Kelly, and his daughter out to a concert. And then he drops off Kim and Kelly, I believe, at Kim's house. And Amy is staying the night at their house. And while they're sleeping, he pulls Amy into his daughter's room and tells her, Amy, it's time. And they have sex. And the next morning, you can just tell she's so uncomfortable. She's sitting at the table having breakfast with the family. Everything, like, nobody knows what's going on except them two. But you can tell she just feels weird, which, of course, why wouldn't you? You're a teenager, you're only 14, and you just had sex with this older man, and you're sitting there with his wife and his kids, and you're sitting next to the daughter that you were just hanging out with at a concert last night, and then you can't talk about your emotions because you can't tell this to anybody. So it's just like, yeah, it's weird. And when she gets home, she just goes into her room and curls up into a corner with one of her stuffed animals. And I kind of like this because it calls back to, let's focus on the fact that this is still a little girl. And although it seems like she's doing grown up things, she's still a child. And so her mom tries to talk to her because she's like, now that you're in high school and you have your sports going on and you're hanging out with your friends, I don't really see you anymore. So how's everything going? But she just blows her off as teenagers do. And her dad buys her a car, which I find exciting because it's just like, wow, you're 14. I think she has a license. I'm not even really sure, but it's like she's 14 with her own car and she's just driving around with it. It's a nice little blue drop top car. And she goes to show her friends and they're just riding around talking. And Kim is talking about a boyfriend that she has who seems to be in and out of rehab. Amy calls him a loser, saying she's tired of hearing Kim talk about him. Oh, excuse me. And Kim says, at least he's not a child molester like your boyfriend. And Amy claims, they're still in, I mean, not still, they're in love. And Kim asks, have you guys done anything? And Amy says she's still technically a virgin. The only thing they've done is make out. And so Kim goes to the principal. And again, the principal says these are just rumors. It's nothing to be taken seriously, excuse me. And then he asks if this is just a jealousy thing. Is she jealous of the fact that Coach Nash is paying more attention to another student than him, and if she just has a crush on him? And she tells him, Amy told us, because Kelly was in the car as well. She said, Amy told us that they are messing around. And he just claims to look into it, which I'm pretty sure he doesn't. So now it's the end of the school year. And for some reason, that means throw paper up in the air and throw paper everywhere. Because all of the kids, it's like the bell rings and they just throw paper up outside of the building as they're running out. And then also on the inside, they're just tossing paper everywhere. And I just had to mention that because it's like, who is going to clean all this up? And it just annoys me so much because I'm like a clean person. It's just like, ugh. Anyway, so as they're walking out, a boy walks up to Amy asking if she's going to the oil fest. And she says, yeah. And, I'm assuming he's going to ask, can they go together? But Coach Nash sees this and calls her into his classroom. And it's just like, it was so random because as they're talking, he's just like, Amy, can I see you in my classroom, please? And it's just like, okay. And he pulls her into the lab and starts kissing her. And she's like, what? No, not at school. And he's like, why? Do you want to go with that Corey boy? So you can tell that he's jealous, but it's just like, ugh, just saying that makes my skin crawl because it's like, you are a grown man and this is a little girl. And the fact that because, okay, just go with me here. I'm not saying it's right and I'm not agreeing with it, but just say, let's say if she was older and this is an affair that's going on, you have a wife. Why could she not have a boyfriend if she so desire and y'all just meet up whenever? It's just like you see this little girl and gross enough you're attracted to her, but then you also want to control her and control what she does. So her mom, Amy's mom, whose name is Betty, she's seeing the change, but her dad blows it off as her just being a teenager. And her mom was like, no, it's more than that. Because it's like, yeah, teenagers act like little a-holes, but also it's just like, nah, this ain't it. Something is wrong with her. But he just like, we have, he said 5 more years, but I would think if she's 14 and it's 18, you only had 4 more years to deal with this, of her acting like this. So at the oil fest, Coach Nash is there with his family, but he sees Amy hanging out with Corey anyway. And he goes over, calls a scene, like calling her a slut, telling her to stay away from him, from Corey, and pulls her out of the oil field. Like, and people are watching this, but they don't say anything. They just let it happen. So he blames his jealousy on her, saying he flipped out because he didn't want to see her with somebody else, and says if he has to do it again, it would cause him to lose his job and his family, and that would be her fault. And it's just like, you are so twisted, literally blaming this on this girl, and it's not her fault. So Amy tries to break it off. She's like, I don't want to do this anymore. But he, of course, doesn't allow that. And someone that Amy's dad worked with says, he asked him about the incident, like, did you hear about Nash and your daughter? And he's like, know what's going on. And so after he finds out, he goes home to ask Amy about it, and she denies anything is going on. She's like, nothing happened. Oh, excuse me. So he goes to Coach Nash, and he also denies it and says, I just didn't want to see her with the likes of Corey, whatever his last name was. And he claims, Amy is like a daughter to me, which also grosses me out. But Amy's dad tells him, well, she's not your daughter, she's mine. So if anything happens like that again, let me take care of it. You don't pull my daughter out like that. And then he says he might pull her away from the camping trip, and Coach Nash is like, no, don't do that to her. That was my fault, and she's been looking forward to it. And so on the camping trip, Amy and Kelly, I didn't see Kim there. Amy and Kelly are sharing a tent. So Amy wakes up and notices that, Kelly wakes up and notices that Amy isn't in the tent. So she gets out and looks around for her. So she takes a few steps and notices that Amy and Coach Nash are making out. And on the way home, Kelly is getting into Amy's car, and Coach Nash gives her another 4 pack of fuzzy navels. And she's like, "What is this, a bribe?" And he's like, just call it a present. And it's just like, I'm confused, but then, like, I kind of get it at the same time because her friends know what's going on, but they start to notice, like, this is more than just a little crush thing or them flirting. Because you think it's cool, like, oh, cool, being with a teacher, but then it's like, no, he's acting too weird, in teenager sense. And it's just like, this is wrong. So when it's just her and Amy in the car, she asks her, she's like, Amy, what is going on? And Amy makes her promise not to tell anyone, but she tells her that they did have sex. Um, and so Kelly tells her, she's like, you have to tell someone. So we see Amy talking to her mom, and we're thinking, well, I'm thinking, this is it. Like, she's going to tell her mom, she's going to say something. This is going to stop. Because although Amy, well, I don't even want to say participating, but it's like, you can see that she's uncomfortable, but she's going along with it. Just like a teenager, wanting to do the quote unquote right thing and not upset the adult. And so she's talking to her mom, and she asked her mom, how did she know she was in love with her dad? And her mom tells her something that her mom told her. And she said, you'll know you're in love when it feels right. It won't feel wrong what you're doing or how you feel. And so she's looking at Amy, and she asks Amy if she thinks she's in love with someone, but Amy shakes her head no. So then once again, to call back to the fact that Amy is still a child, she's curled up in the bed with her stuffed animal. So the teacher, someone from the school calls about insurance papers saying that they need Amy's social security number. So her mom goes into her bedroom to get her, but she's sleeping. So she goes into her purse to get it, which I found, well, I don't know. Maybe it's just in a black household. Our parents hold on to our social security cards, and like they know our numbers. So I was just like, you don't know this number, or you don't have it yourself. Why does she have control over it? But like I said, maybe that's just black households. So her mom goes into her purse to get it, and she sees a note that says, please don't ever change. Don't ever leave me. I want to be this close always. I love you, Coach Nash. And when she flips it over, it's a picture of Coach Nash. So she tells, I'm going to assume it's the secretary. She's like, put Norm on the phone. And Norm is the principal. So Amy and her parents meet with the principal, to talk about this. Because they're like, this isn't normal for a teacher to be giving this to one of the students. Please don't ever change. I love you. And like, I'm like, as much as I loved my teachers, I don't think I've ever told them that I love them, or even have them say that they love me. And not even to say that it has to be a sexual feeling. I just don't think my teachers have ever said that. And once again, we have the principal brushing it off, or brushing it under the rug, and he's like, I hug students all the time. There's nothing to that. And her mom is like, no, there is something wrong with this. But the principal says, they'll just look into it. And he takes Coach Nash hunting with him and warns him to stay away from Amy. He's like, I want this gone. I do not want this to be a problem. So whatever it is, let it go. And stay away from Amy. School is back in session. And when Amy tries to talk to Corey, he doesn't want to. He says, Amy, I can't talk to you. And then we see, and she's like, why not? And we turn and see Coach Nash standing in the hallway. And he's starting to look a little raggedy. He has this V-neck t-shirt that's like kind of pulled down and stretched out, but he's watching them. And he walks up to Amy trying to talk to her, and she tells him, "You're not supposed to talk to me." And he's like, "Why not?" She's like, "You're not supposed to talk to me." And she walks away from him. And so Amy's mom is following up on the rumors about Coach Nash because she once again tells her husband, "This isn't right, and I'm going to look into it." And the thing that gets me, it's too many people saying, "Oh, yeah, he does this all the time," and names off a few girls like Kim did in the beginning of the movie, where it's like, there's this girl, there's that girl. And it's like, so everybody knows that this is a reoccurring thing and that every year he gets a new freshman quote unquote girlfriend and nobody does anything about it. And she talks to one of the girls' mom, like, you're such and such's mother, and I want to know if the rumors about Coach Nash are true. And the girl mom invites her in. So Coach Nash gets Amy to meet up with him. And once again, she's trying to break it off. She tells him, "I don't want to do this anymore." He threatens to kill himself. And of course, she's like, "Oh, no, 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 I do love you. I do love you." And Betty, which is Amy's mom's name, she's going through Amy's room, just trying to find something. And Amy comes home and catches her. And at first she tries to argue, like, "Why are you going through my things?" And her mom was like, "No, what are you not telling me? Like, what is going on?" So she asked, like, "Did he touch you? Did he kiss you? Like, what happened?" And she finally tells her mom everything. And so Coach Nash is meeting with the principal, and he basically calls him stupid. And he's like, "Amy's parents got her a lawyer and they went to the cops. You're suspended." And the cops arrest him, and Coach Nash is charged with second-degree sexual assault. He pleads guilty and is charged with 5 months in jail and 10 years probation. He can never teach or coach again where young children are involved. Now, Betty wants to sue the school, but the lawyer tells her that although Amy is underage, she consented and she is physically a woman. And it's just like, what? But I have to remember it's like there's so many new laws where these things have been corrected, but back in the day, they really thought like this. And no offense to Ohio, but it's Ohio. Um, so now Amy is being bullied because the football team is losing. Because I guess he was that great of a coach that with him coaching, they were winning. But now that he's no longer involved in the school, it's Amy's fault. And she she's walking by hearing people talk about her. And among the people talking about her are her two best friends, Kim and Kelly. And they're standing with the jocks. And Kelly even has on one of the guys' jackets. And she tells, "I thought you guys were supposed to be my best friends, but you turned on me." And they were the two that also encouraged her to tell somebody. So now that she told somebody, then you guys are like switching up on her. And I can see that it's peer pressure from high school. You don't want to be on the outside. But it's just like, how could you do that to your friend? And one day when she's walking to her car, there's a rat hanging from her rearview mirror, and "whore" is written in lipstick on the mirror. And then at night, some students, they throw trash in her car, throw trash in the yard. They stick a "for sale" sign in the grass, and they cross out owner because it says "for sale by owner," but they cross out owner and put "slut," and they spray paint "slut" all over the house, all over her car. and they run outside, and then the students like drive away, and they have a big argument out in the lawn because it's getting to everybody that this is such a huge thing. And Amy is like, this is basically ruining my life, and I wish I wouldn't have never said anything. And she goes back to, he loves me. And her mom was like, he does not love you. This is sick. It's not right. And after the big blowout, she tells Amy, if you want to drop everything, we can, because I love you and I support you and I can see how this is affecting you. But the next morning, Amy decides that she wants to go through with this. So they meet with a different lawyer than the guy that they saw the last time. And this lawyer is a woman this time. So she's more understanding of what Amy is going through. So Nash gets a visit while he's in jail. And his friend is telling him, you look good. How are you doing? Is there anything I can do for you? Or like, how are they treating you in here? And Nash holds up a note and says, can you give this to Amy for me? And his friend just looks at him, and it suddenly clicks like how sick his friend is. And he's like, I can't do that. Like, I'm not going to do that. And Nash tells him, why? I never did anything with her or to her in a negative way. I loved her, or I love her. Like, not past tense, I love her. And his friend tells him, she is a child. That is not the way you love a child. I cannot pass on that note. And he leaves. So Amy and Betty are meeting with the lawyers, and her assistant tells him, by federal law, schools are not responsible for the acts of a teacher. So they should approach this as a civil rights issue. And in the end, Amy and Betty like pulled off to the side of the road, and Amy, she's real emotional. She's like, at first I was scared, but I want to do this because I don't want this to happen to anybody else. And in the end, like how they just put up the words to tell you how the movie ends. It says, in the end, the courts established that children have a constitutional right not to be sexually molested by school teachers. In the majority opinion, the court found that this is not a high school teacher who happened to have an affair with a student. It is about abuse of power. And even then, I didn't like the word affair, because even like the first lawyer who said that Amy consented. How much can a 14-year-old consent to? And it wasn't really consent. It was his abuse of power telling her, oh, I love you. We have to do this. I feel this way about you. And there's nothing wrong with what we're doing, but it has to be a secret. So it's just like, if it's not wrong, then why is it a secret? And you have a wife, and she is a child. Like, nothing about this is okay. So what is there for her to consent to? And this movie is based off a true story of a teacher who actually did this, which I find to be baffling. But that's the thing about a lot of Lifetime movies. They are based off real life events. So there are some sick people out there. But yeah, that's the end of this movie, and I hope you guys have a great day. Peace.